Welcome to our next chapter brain injury meeting. We have William Yon with Duke University. He's going to be talking about sleep and the brain and those interactions and why it's important in our recovery. So thank you so much, William.
Thank you, Ms. Wu. Hi, everyone. My name is William. I'm a senior at Duke studying biology, and today we're looking at sleep and its importance in the recovery and just the normal functioning of the brain. So first, just want to give like a very brief overview of what exactly is sleep in a scientific term or physiological term. So it comes down to the sleep cycle, where we have awake and then we get to sleep stage one, sleep stage two, stage three, and nowadays they don't do stage three and stage four because both of them are merged. And then it kind of goes back again, goes back to stage two, stage one, and then go back to stage which is called REM, which is short for the rapid eye movement. Okay, so this is one way to look at it. This whole thing is 8 hours of sleep. You get different cycles. Another way to look at it is to look at the cycle just like a loop. So we have N1, which is stage one, N2, stage two, stage three, and the rapid eye movement, which is where vivid dreams normally occur. So the pattern behind the sleep cycle is that the key to that is the brain wave, which is the rhythmic electrical activity created by the firings of the neurons. So when we're awake, our brain is really active. It's firing very rapidly. And then once it goes to stage one, stage two, stage three, the deeper the sleep we goes, the our activity in the brain, or AKA the brain wave goes slower and slower. And then in the cycle, it kind of the brainwave goes slower and then goes higher and then goes slower again and goes higher again. So the general trend goes that deeper into the sleep, the brainwave frequency will get lower. And again, I just want to emphasize the role of REM, which is short for the rapid eye movement sleep. This is really important because this is when we dream. Another name for stage three is called the slow wave sleep because it is the deepest stage of sleep with the slowest brain wave. Okay, so with that, I'm going to elaborate more on the role of sleep in terms of how it impacts our brain. So, to define sleep, it is a natural state of healing and resting, and its main functions for the brain is for memory and learning, brain health and cleaning, physical restoration, emotional and mental health, and immune system. And one thing I wanted to note that it's actually this field is a very recent or a relatively recent study field because before 1960s, there's actually no evidence that suggests that sleep is even needed, even though it is a very common sense that we need to sleep to survive. And it's after the 1980s, 1990s, research came out to show all of these functions, and now we can have a not a very clear picture, but definitely a clearer picture of why sleep is important, even though it is a common sense. Okay, so kind of going back to the memory process that we talked about last time I did the presentation, which is like 3 weeks ago. So how memory works is it has different it goes to different parts of the brain for different functions. So kind of the sensory memory is what we see, what we hear. The senses come into a short-term memory where we kind of like rehearse it to kind of consolidate that into a long-term memory. And to be able to retrieve it, we have to get the memory from the long-term memory into the short-term memory in order to have it in our brain. So the highlight that the one idea that I emphasized last time was that the memory is not reconstructive, but sorry, reproductive, but rather reconstructive. That means, which means that we're not accurately reproducing what we goes through, but we're actively retrieving some bits and pieces from the past to reconstruct what we have actually experienced in the past. And this allows many inaccuracies. And this is a part of the reason why sleep will be important is for the consolidation and retrieval, which I'll be elaborating later. So For memory consolidation, that's one of the main function of sleep on our brain. There is a science article published in 2024, I believe, that says older cues during slow wave sleep prompt declarative memory consolidation. So the what this paper was mainly talking about is that the main result is sleep helps strengthening the weak associations and help recall complex events from a single cue. So one thing that I personally experience, which I also think is a common experience, is that when we smell something or taste something that's context dependent, that sometimes will remind us of many, many complex events that's related to it. For example, there's like a specific smell of home or a taste of home that I can think of, and that reminds me of every important locations of the different stuff I place in my in my home. And this kind of shows that the sleep with more slow wave sleep, which is the type of deep sleep, this helps us stabilize the memory of the facts and events by building the connections of these single cues to project it to a large event. Okay, another study's results shows that the sleep shows new learning from being overwritten. So again, tying back to the reconstructive nature of the of memory, is after a memory is formed, it's constantly being overwritten by new things that interferes during the process. So, for example, if we created a password in the past and now we create a new password, sometimes when we try to retrieve the old password, we will add some elements of the new password into that because we kind of overwritten that from the past. So what sleep does is that it protects this memory interference on the next day. And what scientists did is that they first have the participants perform a memory task, and then they make the participants either sleep or take a short nap or not have nap at all. And then it introduces the participants different interactions, distractions, challenges that they do. And then after a while, they ask back the participants what memory task to recall items from the memory task that they have asked to. So they find that people who have either take a short nap or have a sleep after a memory task does significantly better uh, than participants that did not rest after the memory task. So despite that the distraction is the same, the memory consolidates the memory. Sorry, the sleep consolidates the memory so that it's more resilient to the distractions. And another results from the paper is that the sleep triples the likelihood of gaining insight into hidden rules. So what the scientists did is that they have participants who sleep versus who did not sleep perform a number reduction task. So what this means is that uh, it asks the participants to constantly subtract, for example, a number from a bigger number, like 100 subtract 7, all the way until it reaches 0. So people who have sufficient sleep actually find a specific pattern and perform much better the next day compared to the people who did not sleep. Okay, and one question I had when I was reading this paper, and probably many of you guys are wondering right now, would be how would the researchers control the fact that people who did not sleep are more tired than people who already slept. So I actually read into it, and how they control for that is they made the participants who sleep the day before, and then they did not evaluate the situation until a few days later, so that the participants who did not sleep can recover their tiredness with the few extra day of sleep. Okay. And the next role is um, the sleeping actually helps brain cleaning. Um, One of the important systems in the brain is called the glymphatic system, which is a network of channels in the brain that helps to clear waste products and toxins. So in mice, what scientists found is that natural sleep increases this glymphatic clearance of toxins such as beta amyloid. And what essentially happens is that in mice that that has a sufficient amount of sleep, there's more cerebral spinal fluid. So there's more fluid in the brain that can carry these waste product and get the nutrients flowing around the brain, and that helps the overall brain health. And in fact, beta amyloid is a huge risk factor for diseases such as Alzheimer's. And in humans, a similar trend also upholds is that deep sleep couples with large cerebrospinal fluid oscillation, which means that there's more flow in the brain that kind of carries the toxins away, which um, of course leads to better clearance of waste products. Okay. Another benefit of the sleep to brain health is physical restoration. So, a part of our brain called hypothalamus and the pituitary gland are really important to regulate our hormone secretions. So deep sleep actually associate with growth hormone secretion overnight. So at least for the adolescents. So the researchers tested on youth about the relationship between sleep and growth, and they found that um, that youth or teenagers who have more sleep generally grows better because they have more growth hormone secretions. Sleep deprivation also leads to the disruption of anabolic vs catabolic hormonal balance. So, what this means is anabolic hormones, they build and store nutrients. So they kind of build our muscle mass or build our fat storage. It builds stuff. And catabolic hormones, that's the exact opposite. It breaks down the stuff that's in our storage. So kind of this disruption can either lead to obesity if you have too much anabolic hormones, or um, people will become very skinny and malnutrition if there's too much catabolic hormones. And this is mainly a large reason for people to suffer from issues like obesity when they have sleep-related issues. Okay, then we're going to move on to the emotional and mental health impact of sleep. So after sleep, what scientists found is that after sleep loss, amygdala, which is a part of the brain that's responsible for emotional impact, for emotional response, the amygdala reactivity to negative images increased by 60%. So what the scientists did is they use MRIs to scan the brains before for the people who sleep deprived versus a normal brain. And by using this fMRI, the scientists can track the activities of their brains. And they show them images that either give negative mood or some traumatic events, and then look at they look at specifically the amygdala area to look at the activity. So this is what they found is that sleep overall um, tones down our emotional or negative emotional response uh, to images. Okay, and secondly, for rapid eye movement and dreaming, it supports emotional regulation. So the theory goes that in our dreams, we actually relive those highly emotional moments and make sense of that. So by re-experiencing and trying to make sense of that, that kind of aligns our expectations uh, and just overall was trying to can be able to understand and be at peace with our emotions better. And the scientific evidence also shows that sleep loss heightens anxiety and depression. Okay, last but not least, sleep also has a tight association with immune system. So participants who's sleeping less than 7 hours a night are more likely to develop a cold before the scientists expose them to rhinovirus. And then studies have also shown that insufficient sleep around vaccination reduces the antibody response. And last but not least, I kind of want to connect this with the glymphatic clearing that we talked about earlier, is that the sleep supports the local brain immune cells by clearing more toxins and reducing neuroinflammations. Okay, so with that, thank you for listening. And I have also listed three papers that I have referenced, so that if you these are really nice papers in my opinion. So if you guys have time, I will definitely recommend to read into that. And if you have questions after this recording, I can also send these links in the chat. So with that,
Thank you.
that's it for my presentation. Thanks so much.
That's great. Thank you so much. And we appreciate that. We're going to stop the recording and then we'll just see if